Whoops, I'm early. Sorry. Like a whole minute early. Excuse me. Um, yeah, so I didn't have a silent film set up because I had to reboot this iMac that I'm using. And holy cow, this iMac is lousy. It's so slow when it boots. I have an old operating system on it, and God, I just did an info about this Mac, and it's taking forever to come up. Why do I use Macs? I don't know. It's because a lot of the software I use works with a Mac. Anyways, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And I realized last week, was it last week? Is that right? Yeah. Like Monday, I did or maybe it was Tuesday, I did a show from an archive, and it wasn't my archive. It was actually the Found Footage Festival's archive, and some of you picked up on it, like, off the bat. But some of you, I don't think you knew. So anyways, I'm coming clean. I was able to look at the comments during the stream, or now. I wasn't able to do it earlier. And it was clear that some of you were like, yeah, I know what's going on here. But anyways, so that was in Brooklyn at the Found Footage Festival tape archive, where we did an open house together with some stock footage researchers. We're trying to drum up some business. And also related to that, I did not get the Clown Thanksgiving painting back. That is still there. But I found it and decided to highlight it. So, shame on me. Anyways, let's learn about Mozart and his music. Mozart.
We're listening to the music of the composer who has been called the greatest musical genius who ever lived. His name was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and he brought to perfection the classic music of the 18th century. His short life of only 35 years began here in the city of Salzburg, Austria. Here in the winter of 1756, Mozart was born. And here in this famous center of music, his remarkable career began. What can we find in Salzburg today to help us understand Mozart and his music? The house where he was born is a famous landmark in the history of music. When we go inside, we step back in a way to the 18th century. Here, the boy Mozart spent many happy years with his younger sister and his parents. On the piano, young Wolfgang practiced lessons taught by his father, a musician. He was probably the favorite of the family, a brilliant, gifted boy. He learned to play the piano at 3, and by 5 he was composing. At 6, he wrote this minuet in F. Word of his amazing skill soon spread through Salzburg. His father decided to take the boy on a concert tour. They left Salzburg to visit other cities of Europe. We can imagine the wonder of the wide-eyed boy as he saw the great palaces and other attractions in the cities of 18th century Europe. The trip included Vienna, one of the important centers of music education. In the royal palace of the Habsburgs, young Wolfgang met Queen Maria Theresa. She kissed him after his concert because she was so impressed with his performance. Everywhere he went, he was acclaimed as the boy genius. So successful was this tour that in 1768, when Mozart was 13, he and his father set off again, this time to Italy. The Italian tour, which began at Verona, was an important part of Mozart's musical education. Cities such as Bologna were centers of 18th century Italian music. Papa Mozart described it as the dwelling place of many artists and learned men. At the Franciscan church, the boy met Padre Martini, the chapel master, who was a leading authority on church music. The Italian journey included a visit to Rome. At St. Peter's, the boy saw some of the wonders of this religious center. We can imagine the boy Mozart watching the splendid ceremonies during Easter week in Rome. Perhaps these impressions were responsible for the depth of feeling which Mozart later expressed in his final masterpiece, the Requiem Mass. While he was in Rome, Mozart visited the Vatican. Inside the great palace of the popes, the boy attended ceremonies in the famous Sistine Chapel. But this was only one of his great musical experiences in Italy. There was another kind of music that Mozart became acquainted with as he continued his travels in Italy. Here, under blue skies and a warm Italian sun, Mozart heard the captivating melodies of Italian opera. In Milan, in the famed La Scala Opera House, Mozart's own operas were later introduced to Italian audiences. It may have been on this Italian tour that Mozart caught the flavor of Italian music. For he was the first, as it was said, to make the instruments sing, to give his music a graceful, lyrical quality. In Naples, young Mozart discovered the world of opera music. In this city was the famous San Carlo, home of Italian opera. Mozart later wrote operas which brought this form of music to high perfection. Don Giovanni is such a classic. Let's listen to an aria from Don Giovanni, in this scene with Zerlina and Mazzetto. From the musical world of Italy, Mozart and his father returned to Salzburg. Here Mozart began the final stage of his development into one of the greatest of composers. Here his patron was the Archbishop of Salzburg. For 6 years, Mozart was court composer to the Archbishop. But after a violent quarrel with his patron, he left Salzburg. Once more, the young composer traveled. Munich, Paris, Mannheim. Finally, he settled in Vienna, there to spend the rest of his life. In this church in Vienna, he was married. In Vienna, too, he enjoyed the friendship of Haydn, another master composer. And here in Vienna, he composed the bulk of his works. How shall we describe his music? It is music that reflects the 18th century aristocracy in Europe. It is music that expresses a way of life that was elegant, formal, and charming. It is music that recreates for us an untroubled world, a world that resisted change. And in this world moved the kind of people for whom Mozart wrote his music. The beautifully costumed men and women of the 18th century. That century was an age of princes and kings. Their splendid gardens and palaces were designed in the classic tradition of ancient Greece and Rome. It was an age of classic art. And Mozart's music, like classic architecture, stressed form and balanced design. Much of this music, too, was chamber music. Let's step inside an 18th century drawing room. The music we hear is one of Mozart's most familiar piano sonatas. And so Mozart's music depicts the traditions of the 18th century. And yet, although he was acclaimed a great composer, there was no market for his compositions. However, his personal disappointments and tragedies never affected the spirit of his music. While he lived in Vienna, he was constantly in debt. He moved from house to house, often unable to pay his bills. But wherever he lived, he poured out his music, the music of his mature years. From Mozart's brilliant mind and prolific pen, there continued to come a torrent of masterpieces. Among them, one of the greatest of his symphonies. It is the Symphony No. 40 in G minor, one of the more than 600 compositions which he wrote in his short lifetime. He was truly a master composer. His music is the flawless music of the elegant 18th century. It is music in the classic tradition, music of classic form and balance. Few composers have equaled the perfection of Mozart's music. He has been called the greatest musical genius who ever lived.
The greatest musical genius who ever lived. He was broke all the time. Maybe that's the deal. I'm broke all the time because I'm the greatest film collecting 60mm genius of all time. Thomas, thank you so much for your kind donation. Because that certainly helps. That money goes towards paying for storage units, because we got a bunch. And So thank you for that. You can also donate via ko-fi.com/avgeeks, patreon.com/avgeeks. You can Venmo me at skip-elsheimer, and you get to see actually how I spell my last name. How about that? Or use the super thanks button. Those are great ways to support us. Let's see. So behind me. No, actually, we'll do this next. So it's funny. This next film is about medieval times, and it does kind of like this man on the street interview with medieval villagers, and it just immediately reminded me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail for some reason. I don't know why, and I was expecting it to go silly, but it's pretty straight. So here it is: medieval times, not the theme restaurant, but just the medieval times. Villagers. Enjoy.
It's the year 1128 in a typical medieval village. Farming is the major industry, but the land doesn't belong to the farmers. It's all the property of the baron, who divides the huge fields into hundreds of strips, and on these, the villagers grow their crops. The manor house. The lord of the manor, who serves the baron, is responsible for local organization and justice. But the lord oversees so many manors that he can visit each one only now and then. So he has a bailiff to look after village affairs in his absence.
My lord has 26 manors. Some many leagues from here, which I've never seen. He's got 9 under the Earl of Essex, 12 under the Abbot of Chertsey, and 5 the Herodium from the king himself. It's 2 years now since our old lord, God rest his soul, came to Wingfield. But his son, Sir Richard, who is our new lord, I did hear, is to visit us soon.
Edwin the bailiff has a busy life managing the affairs of the village for his new lord.
God's day, Walter. God's day, Master Bailiff.
Walter works in the fields here as a villain, that is, a serf who has freeman status. But he must pay rent for this land and everything else he uses. He pays in money and by working for the lord of the manor.
For my plough land, I must do 2 days' work each week on my lord's land, and thus I pay my due. But that is not the end of it. I must also every year do as many days' boon work as my lord decrees. That is to say, I must do more work at harvest time and at gathering wood for the winter time and at many other times. I must pay hens and eggs on all great holy days, such as Christmas. In both summer and winter I must work, parched or beslobbered with mud. And when there is much to do, my good wife helps me by goading the ox while our baby lies wrapped against the cold in a winnowing sheet on the headland where the plow turns. I have a cow and a calf and a cart to draw dung to the fields. And I have a mare, too. And so, I feed hunger with the best.
Walter has a cottage in the village like all the other villains. His wife not only helps him in the fields, but of course tends to the housework.
Each day towards evening, I cook broth for my good man in the field, and I takes him bread at midday. But on those days that he do work on the Lord's land, he gets from Master John, our reeve, bean bread and ale, and perhaps some curds and bacon. But no wheat bread such as the bailiff eats, for that is not for the likes of us.
The house of John, the Reeve.
How goes the meal, good wife?
Oh, I thought it's ready, John.
The Reeve is a villain too, but his job is to help the bailiff run the manor. He's chosen by the other villains and does no field work. His house is finer than most. John's wife is proud of her furniture and her fine pots and bowls. Unlike most houses in the village, the smoke from their fire comes out a chimney under the roof. And while other villagers have only one room, John and his family have two. They have a bedroom up above. The Reeve is one of the most important men in the village. He supervises the work of the villains in the fields. The shepherd and the swineherd. Now meet Thomas, a carpenter. There are many such craftsmen in this village.
"4 days each week, I labor for the bailiff. That is, for the Lord, though God rest his soul, 'tis seldom we see him. And 2 days for myself. And Enoch works with me. We call him the underdog because he labors underneath. And I bakes bowls and chests and beams and all manner of things. And I builds houses too. But when I needs iron, I go to William the blacksmith, for I am not skilled in iron."
The village also has a pottery, which is owned, like everything else, by the baron. And a wife of one of the villains bakes bread for the whole village in the bakehouse. Being a self-sufficient community, there's also a miller in town, a competent man with an educated thumb.
"'Tis true. My thumb's my goal. And if you disagree, take heed, for no man is my match. I can heave the stoutest door off hinge or post, or take a run and butt it with my head. Now, I'll be the judge. I'm an honest man, and live in charity with all my neighbours, and pay my due of 20 shillings to my lord for the use of this same mill, and with it grind every man's corn, and keep back no more than is my due."
Well, honest miller, you grow so rich you need no longer work.
I'm a poor man, as well you know, and as Christ is my judge, keep back only that part of the flour that is my due.
Andrew, the hayward. His job is to see that the animals do not damage the villagers' crops and to act as a kind of village constable. The job is so unpopular that a new hayward is often chosen each year. Uh-oh. The swineherds let his pigs get into Widow Alice's garden.
"Oh, blessed Virgin. I'd liefer fast bread and water all 5 years than be chose Haywood for another year."
"Master Andrew?"
"Your pigs be in Widow Alice's pot herbs and do eat all out of house and arbour, and their ends are all gone. By thy neck thou art like to buy it dear."
"As I am worthy of my meat, for a foul blot to be fined for such a thing."
"Fined you will be if Master Edwin the bailiff hears aught of it. Make haste."
"Oh, the Reeve be looking for ye. He says get Widow Alice's hens out of the waste."
By the Holy Mary, why was I born to this?
And the cotter, found in every medieval village. A man so low in status he has no strips in the common fields. The cotter works all his life for others. He's among the poorest in the village, lives in a hovel, sleeps on the floor. But this fine house belongs to Richard Bayleaf, who represents a new class of villager. He pays the Lord not in services, but in money earned from the wool he sells. Of course, the church, the one building which every class of villager tends with loving care.
Id populus tutis, id amare quod praecibus, id desidere quod promitis.
All gather here on Sundays and feast days.
Ibi nostra fixa sint, corda ubi vera sunt guardia. Veni sancte Spiritus. Deus auctor pacis et amator, quem nosse vivere, cui servire renare est.
Today, the priest tells a story from the scriptures, using as illustrations the paintings on the walls of the church. The priest is everybody's friend. His father was a villain, and as a boy, showing intelligence, he was sent to one of the abbeys for training, then appointed to the village. He helps the poor, the sick, and the widows as best he can. The Lord visits the manor. The bailiff reports, and the Lord dispenses justice. All men and boys over 12 are expected to attend the regular manorial courts.
His father, having died, God rest
The
his soul,
Lord listens to the pleas of the villagers, and all the villains are here to listen and answer questions.
In the common field, sire, and also for the rights ability. Walter seeks to pay 6 shillings and do no ploughing at Lent and sowing. Thomas has a daughter, and he seeks permission for her to marry. And John Crocker, he seeks more grazing on the waste, sire, and he doth offer 1 hen in payment. Alice, the widow, doth complain of wrong done to her by Jacob the swineherd.
He, Jacob, did let the swine break down my fence, and all my leeks and beans be eaten. And my hens had got into the waste, and they'd be eaten too by the foxes. Had not Andrew the hayward caught them all and brought them back. And me but a poor widow with no man to fetch wood to mend my fence. I would not take 12 pence for the disgrace of it.
Could not the reeve deal with this matter?
She did humbly ask to see you, sire, and has for many years had feud with the swineherd, whom she says doth wrong her with intent.
What say you, swineherd? Does this woman speak the truth?
The swine was loose, and that were fault enough. But I'm an honest swineherd. I did intend no wrong to this good widow, then or any other time.
Will any man speak?
2 men will testify that the swine broke down the fence.
Then you must mend the fence and pay 2 pence for the disgrace of it.
This man's punishment is a day in the pillory for breaking a minor rule. And this woman? Well, she was found guilty of constant nagging. They punish people for that sort of thing. Before the lord of the manor leaves, he gives final instructions to the bailiff. And life in the medieval village goes on as usual. In this year, 1128.
Dunked for nagging. So that was actually medieval society, not medieval times. Sometimes that happens. We write down something and our brain reads what's on the can, but we're thinking something. We're thinking medieval times. Whee! Yeah, man, it was hard not to fall back to Monty Python with all that. Anyways, so behind me, I do have a film scanner set up. And so this is what it says on the can. It says Secret RD-GP1, the Mark 56 Mod 2 warhead. It's from the Air Force. It says on the back, critical nuclear weapon design information. So, I don't know if we're going to watch and see. It would be amazing if that was what this was, and it might be kind of questioning, like, why is this in my hand? Why did I get this? So, I have been burned in the past where I'm like, ooh, it's got to be this film. It's awesome. And it's like, oh, it's just in that can. Wah, wah. So, let's see what this is. I have no idea. It's something written on the... On here that says reactions and obtuse. So I don't know what that is. And then back here, it's I am Joaquin. Like, I don't know what this is. So I'm just going to call it Untitled until we find out. All right, here it is. This is a world premiere. Enjoy.
Joaquin, lost in a world of confusion, caught up in a whirl of an Anglo society, confused by the rules, scorned by attitudes, suppressed by manipulations, and destroyed by modern society. My fathers have lost the economic battle and won the struggle of cultural survival. And now I must choose between the paradox of victory of the spirit, despite physical hunger, or to exist in the grasp of American social neurosis, sterilization of the soul, and a full stomach. Yes, I have come a long way to nowhere, unwillingly dragged by that monstrous technical industrial giant called progress and Anglo success. I look at myself. I watch my brothers. I shed tears of sorrow. I sow seeds. I withdraw to the safety within the circle of life, my own. I am Cuauhtémoc, proud and noble leader of men, king of an empire civilized beyond the dreams of the Gauchupin Cortés, who is also the blood, the image of myself. I am the Maya prince. I am Netzahualcoyotl, great leader of the claim of Cortés the despot. I am the eagle and serpent of the Aztec civilization. I own the land as far as the eye could see under the crown of Spain. and I toiled on my earth, and gave my Indian sweat and blood for the Spanish master, who ruled with tyranny over man and beast and all that he could trample, but the ground was mine. I was both tyrant and slave. As Christian church took its place in God's good name, to take and use my virgin strength and trusting faith, the priests, both good and bad, took but gave a lasting truth that Spaniard, Indian, mestizo were all God's children. And from these words grew men who prayed and fought for their own worth as human beings, for that golden moment of freedom. I was part in blood and spirit of that courageous village priest Hidalgo in the year 1810, who rang the bell of independence and gave out that lasting cry, El grito de Dolores, ¡Que vuelvan los gauchupines! ¡Viva la Virgen de Guadalupe! I sentenced him who was me. I excommunicated him my blood. I drove him from the pulpit to lead a bloody revolution for him and me. I killed him, his head, which is mine, and all of those who have come this way, I placed on that fortress wall to wait for independence. Matamoros, Guerrero, all compañeros in the act stood against that wall of infamy to feel the hot gouge of lead that my hands made. I died with them. I lived with them. I lived to see our country free, free from Spanish rule in 1821. Mexico was free, the crown was gone, but all his parasites remained and ruled and taught with gun and flame and mystic power. I worked, I sweated, I bled, I prayed, and waited silently for life to again commence. I fought and died for Don Benito Juarez, guardian of the Constitution. I was him on dusty roads, on barren plains, as he protected his archives as Moses did his sacraments. He held his Mexico in his hand on the most desolate and remote ground, which was his country. And this giant little Zapotec gave not one palm's breadth of his country's land to kings or monarchs or presidents of foreign powers. I rode with Pancho Villa, crude and warm, a tornado at full strength, not all his earthly people. I am Emiliano Zapata. This land, this earth, is ours. I ride with revolutionists against myself. I am rural, coarse, and brutal. I am the mountain Indian, superior over all. The thundering hoofbeats are my horses. The chattering machine guns are death to all of me. Yaqui, Tarumara, Chamula, Zapotec, Mestizo, Español. I have been the bloody revolution. The victor, the vanquished. I have killed and been killed. I am the despots Diaz and Huerta, and the apostle of democracy, Francisco Madero. I am the black-shawled, faithful women who die with me or live, depending on the time and place. I rode the mountains of San Joaquin. I rode as far east and north as the Rocky Mountains, and all men feared the guns of Joaquin Murrieta. I killed those men who dared to steal my mind, who raped and killed my love, my wife. I stand here looking back, and now I see the present, and still I am the campesino. I am the fat political coyote, I of the same name, Joaquin, in a country that has wiped out all my history, stifled all my pride, in a country that has placed a different weight of indignity upon my age, old, burdened back. Inferiority is the new load. The Indian has endured and still emerged the winner. The mestizo must yet overcome, and the gachupin will just ignore.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I look at myself and see part of me who rejects my father and my mother and dissolves into the melting pot to disappear in shame. I sometimes sell my brothers out and reclaim them for my own when society gives me token leadership in society's own name. I bleed in some smelly cell from club or gun or tyranny. I bleed as the vicious gloves of hunger cut my face and eyes as I fight my way from stinking barrios to the glamour of the ring and light of fame or mutilated sorrow. My blood runs pure on the ice-caked hills of the Alaskan Isles, on the corpse-strewn beach of Normandy, the foreign land of Korea, and now Vietnam. Here I stand before the court of justice, guilty for all the glory of my raza, to be sentenced to despair. Here I stand, poor in money, arrogant in pride, bold with machismo, rich in courage, wealthy in spirit and faith. My knees are caked with mud. My hands calloused from the hoe. I have made the Anglo rich, yet equality is but a word. The Treaty of Hidalgo has been broken and is but another treacherous promise. My lands are lost and stolen. My culture has been raped. I lengthen the line at the welfare door and fill the jails with crime. These, then, are the rewards this society has for sons of chiefs and kings and bloody revolutionists who gave a foreign people all their skills and ingenuity to pave the way with brains and blood for those hordes of gold-starved strangers who changed our language and plagiarized our deeds as feats of valor of the road. They frowned upon our way of life and took what they could use. Our art, our literature, our music, they ignored. So they left the real things of value and grabbed at their own destruction by their greed and avarice. They overlooked that cleansing fountain of nature and brotherhood, which is Joaquin. I must fight and win this struggle for my sons, and they must know from me who I am. I have endured in the rugged mountains of our country. I have survived the toils and slavery of the fields. I have existed in the barrios of the city, in the suburbs of bigotry, in the mines of social snobbery, in the prisons of dejection, in the muck of exploitation, in the fierce heat of racial hatred. Greaser! Speak! And now the trumpet sounds. The music of the people stirs the revolution. Like a sleeping giant, it slowly rears its head to the sound of tramping feet, clamoring voices, mariachi strains, fiery tequila explosions, the smell of chile verde, and soft brown eyes of expectation for a better life. And in all the fertile farmlands, the barren plains, mountain villages, smoke-smeared cities, we start to move. Myself. I look the same. I feel the same. I cry and I sing the same. I am the masses of my people and I refuse to be absorbed. Joaquin. The odds are great, but my spirit is strong. My faith, unbreakable. My blood is pure. I am Aztec prince and Christian Christ. I shall endure. I will endure.
Okay. that was not Mark 56 MCD 2 Warhead film. It was not Reactions and Obtuse. It was this little tiny tape thing on the back. I am Joaquin. That is not how we do things here at AV Geeks as far as listing the title of something. We don't have all this enticing information and then this little tiny thing in the back. So I looked up while we were watching it because I was like, what is going on? Because this is something. And it's a poem written by Corky Gonzalez and Luis Valdez, who narrates it and directed it, later directed La Bamba. So, there you go. Mod 2. Okay. Thanks, Thomas, for... I was looking at it through the camera, so I saw MCD, but it's MOD. But it's not what it is. Thank you, Kevin, for rewarding me for showing that film. It was totally by accident. That's kind of the way we do things here at AV Geeks. It's like, well, I wonder what this is. Well, this is enticing. Let's watch it. And it's like, nope, that's not what that film is at all. So, and I'll pretty much just let it run unless there's like insane violence or, just super gross because I know some of you are eating lunch, or it's super adult. And then we'll save it for another time. But yeah, I didn't know where that was going. So thanks for tagging along on that. Okay, so now here's a film about cancer. Enjoy.
The quiet of midnight hangs over the town. Your neighbor's house, or perhaps it's your house, asleep. Asleep save for one member of the family. Just 1 week ago, Mary Bronson discovered that she has what may be a symptom of cancer.
Cancer. Cancer. It can start, they say, almost unnoticeably. And then it grows and grows. A horror that never stops. Is it contagious? Can my family catch it? My friends? What if it's inherited? Will my children have it too? What will happen to me? Will I die? Well, that's foolishness. I probably don't have cancer at all. What if I do? People don't tell you about cancer. They don't talk about it. Why not? Is a cancer victim an outcast? Is there no hope? No hope?
Even in the daytime, there is no rest, no peace. Nerves will not stay quiet. They shout, they clamor. Cancer, cancer.
Cancer. Cancer. Cancer.
It's a devil's tune that no one else can hear, no one else can understand. Walk away from it. Leave it behind as you go about your daily work. Do your shopping and forget it.
Cancer, cancer, cancer. I can't forget it. I can't. I ought to do something about it. I know I should. But where can I go? Who can help me?
Look, here. The American Cancer Society maintains this office and many others to help people just like you, Mrs. Bronson. Go on in. Don't be frightened. Don't go away. You needn't feel conspicuous. There are others worried about cancer, too, thousands of them. For instance, Frank Turner. He's greatly worried that he has cancer. Cancer can strike anyone. It can strike George Reeves, who owns the local hardware store. Or Harriet Glennon, who's always so healthy. Or Roy Mead, a clock expert, never sick a day of his life. Even Ruth Condon, the picture of health. Babies aren't immune. In fact, no one is. Cancer strikes blindly, anywhere. Banker, bricklayer, postman, mechanic. 1 out of every 8. In 1 year in the United States, 175,000 people die of cancer. More Americans than were killed in the war from Pearl Harbor to peace in Tokyo Bay. Unless we gain new knowledge and vastly spread what we now know, 1 out of every 8 Americans now alive will die of cancer. 1 out of 8. And is this one of them, our worried housewife? Does Mary Bronson have cancer? Well, she knows she might have, and she is an intelligent woman. So at last she decides to return to the office of the Field Army of the American Cancer Society. Inside is Helen Woolsey, a worker in the Field Army. She seems nice, doesn't she, Mrs. Bronson? Certainly not frightening at all. And it's a pleasant office here. Quiet, reassuring. Miss Woolsey closes the door to ensure privacy for a confidential talk. Tell her all about it, Mrs. Bronson. Tell her how frightened you've been. You see, she knows exactly what you mean. She understands. And she has the answers, too. Cancer is not contagious. Cancer is not inherited, not a disgrace. And cancer can be cured if it's caught early enough. Mrs. Bronson, only 2 out of 10 with a lump in the breast have cancer. And even in those cases, 75% can be cured if treated in time. So you see, you were wise. You were very wise not to waste more time. It's vitally necessary to see your doctor as soon as you notice any of these 7 danger signals. Any sore that does not heal, particularly about the tongue, mouth, or lips. A painless lump or thickening, especially in the breast, lip, or tongue. Irregular bleeding or discharge from the nipple or any natural body opening. Progressive change in the color or size of a wart, mole, or birthmark. Persistent indigestion, persistent hoarseness, unexplained cough, or difficulty in swallowing. Any change in the normal bowel habits. See your doctor at once about any of these warning signals. Don't wait and worry. Delay may be fatal. Cancer is often curable if treated in time. Miss Woolsey telephones to make an appointment with Mrs. Bronson's family physician, Dr. Addison. An examination is an absolute necessity. The examination is over and Mrs. Bronson is feeling much better because now something is being done about her trouble. She's no longer alone. Science is fighting by her side. Dr. Addison explains the nature of cancer. It's like a gangster in the body, an outlaw cell that won't stop growing. Say it starts in the breast. It grows there and then expands through the lymphatic and circulatory systems to a nearby vulnerable spot in the armpit. Then it moves up to a gland in the neck, and then it really starts to spread throughout the body. The only way to stop it is to remove it before it's so scattered it's impossible to remove. So the one thing to do is to catch it early, while it's still just in one little spot. There is still the most important question of all to be answered. Mrs. Bronson wants to know how to tell whether she has cancer. There's only one way. You'll need a minor operation called a biopsy. It isn't serious. The surgeon will simply remove that small lump you've noticed, and a pathologist will examine it to see whether it's harmless or cancerous. The chances are by far that it will not be cancerous. But suppose it is. How is cancer treated? Dr. Addison decides he can explain it best with pictures. The most common method of treatment is surgery, actually cutting out every last trace of the cancerous tissue. A second method is X-ray. The X-ray, carefully applied, destroys cancerous cells but not healthy tissues. A third method consists in the use of radium. A small amount of radium is applied directly to the affected area.
Today, the American Cancer Society has launched man's first great mass attack upon cancer by organized research. In laboratories of outstanding medical institutions, intensive study goes forward. The National Academy of Sciences, through its National Research Council, has selected 90 eminent specialists to guide and coordinate the work. A work so vast that it is far more costly than all former efforts combined. A work the American people must continuously support by its contributions. Now there's just one thing more, Mrs. Bronson. The doctor must have your permission to perform a complete operation for cancer if he finds that cancer is present. Mrs. Bronson agrees wholeheartedly. If there's any there, let's get rid of it fast. By now, Mrs. Bronson is a minor authority on the subject herself. The biopsy itself is a fairly minor operation, but the excitement comes later. When the tumor has been removed, the operation must be stopped in mid-flight, halted until the pathologist can bring in a verdict. The tumor is harmless or cancerous. The lump has been removed. The pathologist looks at it briefly. It must be examined in the laboratory immediately. In order to make the necessary microscopic examination, a very small piece of the tissue is removed, and this tiny section must then be frozen. This is done simply to harden it so that it may be sliced to a very thin wafer. Special equipment quickly freezes the tissue. Meanwhile, in surgery, the operating team is waiting. The surgeon's hands in the air to keep them sterile. Nothing moves but the clock. Waiting, waiting. The wafer is put on a slide, and the slide is then heated to speed up the process. Now the slide must be dyed to identify exactly the cells the pathologist needs to see. In a moment, he'll have the answer, and surgery will know whether a minor biopsy is to be finished or a vitally important cancer operation is to be performed. Which will it be? And here is the answer. The tissue is healthy. Mary Bronson does not have cancer. The ugly, nagging fear that plagued her has been banished in the only way it can be banished, by a complete scientific examination. Her own physician, our friend Dr. Addison, is on hand to give her the good news the moment she's awake. You can leave the hospital in a couple of days, Mary, and you can start smiling again. Filled with relief and gratitude, Mrs. Bronson returns to the office of the American Cancer Society. As others had helped her, she is determined to help others. She volunteers for any type of work in the fight against cancer. Some of the work is routine, such as preparing surgical dressings. But some of it is interesting and exciting, such as radio talks, helping to educate the public in the facts about cancer. Some is very rewarding, such as lightening the hours of lonely children in terminal care. At the Blood Donor Center, she learns a lively and unusual task, how to type blood. And there are many helpful and gratifying duties as a nurse's aide. It includes fund solicitation, and let each who passes her consider, tomorrow those dimes and dollars may help save me from cancer. But her greatest thrill comes in the knowledge that she is helping to save a life when she brings in a neighbor who has a cancer symptom but is afraid to find out for sure. Anytime cancer is suspected, delay may be fatal. The only sure way to triumph over cancer is to catch it early. Time is life.
So I just realized, looking at the comments, some of us are dealing with cancer, either ourselves or family members or loved ones, and so I'm sorry if that was a little too triggering for you, but I understand. But you know, the talking about cancer is a way to help process that stress, is realizing that we're all part of that today. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Ending on an up note, kind of. But yeah, this is the wonderful roller coaster that is AV Geeks. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. You can join us tomorrow. We'll watch some more films. It'll be great. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. If you like the general gist of what we do, you can do the same. Also, you can donate via ko-fi.com/avgeeks, patreon.com/avgeeks via the super thanks button, which some of you did. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow. As always, please rewind and love each other, and we will see you tomorrow. Everybody have a great Thursday. Bye.